Long ago, in the small and peaceful town of Wari, lived two brothers, Daniel and Joseph. They were just 2 years apart, with Daniel being the eldest. Daniel had a gentle nature, always calm, quiet, and carrying a soft smile. Joseph, on the other hand, was younger, bold, quick-tongued, and always chasing lofty ambitions. They grew up in poverty. Their mother survived by selling bread along the roadside, since their father had passed away before either of them reached their teenage years. Daniel was the one who stayed behind to help their mother, while Joseph left early to pursue opportunities in Lagos. Years passed. Daniel learned how to repair cars and worked part-time as a mechanic. His life was simple, humble and faithful, though poverty clung to him. Joseph, however, found success. He was clever, street-smart, and fortunate. Through import businesses and political contracts, he amassed wealth. But one day, everything turned upside down. It began with a single phone call. Daniel was beneath a car at the workshop repairing a fuel tank when his phone rang. Quickly wiping his greasy hands, he answered. "Hello." It was Grace, Joseph's wife, weeping uncontrollably. "Daniel, please come. Come to Lagos. Joseph is in the hospital, he's dying." Without hesitation, Daniel boarded the next night bus and arrived by morning, weary and covered in dust from the long trip. He hadn't even eaten but went straight to the hospital. Grace embraced him, still crying. Inside the private ward, he saw Joseph lying frail on the bed, hooked to machines. His eyes were hollow, his voice faint. "Danny," he whispered. Daniel rushed to his side. "What happened?" "Kidney failure," Grace answered softly. Joseph gripped Daniel's hand tightly. They said, "I need a transplant." Daniel froze and turned toward the doctor. "What does this mean?" The doctor explained, "He requires a kidney urgently, from a living donor." Silence filled the room. Grace spoke next. "I've already been tested. I'm not a match." Daniel looked at his brother. Joseph's eyes brimmed with tears. "I don't want to die," he whispered. Daniel nodded. "I'll take the test," he said instantly. 2 days later, the results showed Daniel was a perfect match. The doctors explained the risks, the dangers of living with one kidney and the long recovery ahead. Daniel asked one question only. "If I don't give him, will he die?" The doctor nodded. Without hesitation, Daniel agreed. The night before surgery, Daniel sat by Joseph's bed. "Why are you doing this?" Joseph asked quietly. Daniel smiled. "Because you're my brother." Joseph turned his face away, tears spilling down his cheeks. "I don't deserve this." "Maybe not," Daniel replied gently. "But I'm not doing it because you deserve it. I'm doing it because I love you." The surgery lasted 2 long hours, 2 brothers on 2 operating tables, one risking his life to save the other. The operation succeeded. Joseph survived. Daniel grew weaker but was alive. The hospital staff applauded when Daniel managed to walk again. Within 2 days, people called him a hero. Grace embraced him, calling him a blessing from God. Joseph wept when he saw his brother after surgery. "You've saved me," he whispered. Daniel, pale but smiling, replied, "You are my blood." 3 weeks later, Daniel returned home. Joseph handed him a small envelope containing 100,000 naira as a token of thanks. But after that, Joseph never visited. He grew busy. Calls became fewer, then stopped. The day Daniel tried to complain about their growing distance, Joseph blocked his number. 3 months later, Daniel heard from a friend in Lagos that Joseph had purchased a mansion in Lekki, drove a brand new Lexus Jeep, and mingled with governors and influential men. Meanwhile, Daniel remained at home, still weak and recovering. His mechanic work was gone. He no longer had the strength for it. He tried calling Joseph, but the line never went through. He called Grace, no response. Text messages were ignored. Day by day his heart broke. At last, he borrowed money from a friend and traveled to Lagos. Waiting outside Joseph's office for hours, he finally saw his younger brother emerge. "Joe," Daniel called out with a smile. Joseph glanced at him, pretending not to recognize him. Daniel hurried closer. "Joe, it's me, Daniel." Joseph stopped. "Daniel, please don't embarrass me here." Daniel's heart dropped. "Embarrass you, Joe? It's me. I gave you my kidney." Joseph's expression hardened. And did I not give you money? Or do you want to use that as an excuse to beg from me forever? Daniel shook his head slowly, his face heavy with shame. I never asked you for anything. Then go home, Joseph snapped. He stepped into his car and drove away, leaving Daniel at the gate like a beggar. Daniel stood frozen, unable to even find a bus to return home that night. That night, he checked into a small motel, sitting alone on the bed lost in thought. He had no money left to return anywhere. In Lagos, he had no one to turn to. His eyes burned from crying, his stomach ached from hunger, and his heart felt broken beyond repair. He glanced at the scar on his side, the one from surgery, still itching now and then. I gave you life, and all you returned was silence, he whispered to himself. The following day, Daniel began taking on different jobs, trying to save enough to make his way back. By fortune, he came across a kind stranger who offered him the money he needed. Meanwhile, Joseph was on the rise. Political appointments came his way, and he mingled with the powerful. But something unusual started happening. Sleep abandoned him. He would wake drenched in sweat, haunted by voices, chased by shadows. His appetite faded. Doctors assured him nothing was wrong, but deep inside he knew something unseen was pursuing him. 2 months after Daniel returned to UI, he had grown thinner, quieter. He no longer spoke much in public. One evening, while sitting on a wooden bench outside his mother's home, a car pulled up. It was Grace. Fear showed on her face as she approached Daniel. Please, he's dying again. Daniel didn't answer. He's been vomiting blood. Doctors can't explain it. He keeps calling your name in his sleep. Still, Daniel remained silent. Grace sank to her knees. Please come and see him. Daniel rose slowly, walked back into the house, leaving her kneeling behind. With no choice, Grace returned to the city. At the hospital where Joseph was admitted, he woke in terror from a nightmare, drenched in sweat. Grace hurried to him. What is it this time? She asked. Shaking, Joseph whispered. I saw Daniel. He was bleeding, standing by my bed. He said I should give it back. Alarmed, Grace grabbed her phone and called their pastor. He's seeing things again. Please, sir, come. Pray for him. The pastor arrived quickly. After praying, he told Grace, take him home. This isn't a medical battle. Only one person can deliver him, and that's Daniel. The pastor personally reached out to Daniel, pleading with him to visit his brother. After much urging, Daniel finally agreed. Not out of desire, but because questions burned inside him. When he stepped into Joseph's mansion in Lekki, marble floors, glittering chandeliers, guards at every corner. Inside lay Joseph, resembling a dying king. His face pale, eyes hollow. At first, he barely recognized Daniel, but when he did, he stretched out a trembling hand. Brother! Daniel didn't move closer. His eyes scanned the mansion, then returned to Joseph. So this is where you brought my kidney, he said quietly. Joseph swallowed hard. I was wrong. Daniel's expression turned to stone. Wrong? You gave me life, and I gave you silence. Joseph broke down in tears, but Daniel's face stayed unmoved. Grace stood near the door, her eyes red from weeping. She spoke gently. You don't know what happened behind the scenes. Daniel turned sharply. Then tell me. She hesitated, then finally revealed the truth. After the surgery, Joseph had only just begun to walk again. One day he stood shirtless before the mirror. He touched the scar from the transplant, and he wept, not from pain, but from shame. That scar to him was a reminder of weakness, of dependency, of begging for help. In Joseph's mind, your saving him meant you would always think yourself above him. So he made a choice, to cut you off before you reminded him of it every day, before he felt small in your presence. Daniel's mouth fell open. So you cast me aside because of your pride? Joseph said nothing. He wouldn't even let me thank you, Grace added softly. He wanted to act like it never happened. But inside, that denial ate him alive. Daniel sank into a chair, feeling lightheaded. Months of silence, betrayal, and rejection. All because of arrogance. At that moment, the family pastor walked in. He greeted them, then placed his hand on Joseph's head and prayed. Turning to Daniel, he said, Son, there's something you must understand. The day you gave your kidney, a covenant was sealed in the spirit. But when Joseph rejected you, that covenant twisted into a curse. Everyone froze. When a man gives his blood, his organ, his very life, and is denied, it breeds rejection and torment, the pastor continued. Joseph's suffering was not only physical, it came from that broken bond. Grace burst into tears. Then what do we do? The pastor turned to Daniel. You hold the key. Daniel looked stunned. Me? Yes. You must break it yourself. You must speak it. You must forgive him from the depths of your heart. Or else this debt would never be lifted. For the first time since his rejection, Daniel finally broke down. His tears weren't small or quiet. They poured out in deep, aching sobs. Memories rushed back. The nights he slept on the streets, the hunger that gnawed at him, the clients he lost, and the dreams that had crumbled inside. He wept for the scars carved into his body, and even more for the wounds carved into his heart. Slowly, he rose to his feet, walked toward his brother, laid a hand over his chest, and whispered, I forgive you. Not because you have earned it, but because I want my soul to be free. Because I want God to hear my prayers again. You took my kindness and cast it aside, but I refuse to carry your burden any longer. I release you. I give you back your life. May God be the one to judge between us. At that moment, Joseph began to tremble violently. His eyes rolled back, his body shook uncontrollably, and he screamed. The pastor rushed to steady him, holding his head in prayer. After 10 long minutes, Joseph's body stilled. His breathing softened. He opened his eyes, scanning the room, then smiled faintly. The voices, they're gone. Seeing his brother restored, Daniel simply turned away. He didn't wait for gratitude, nor did he expect any reward. He walked out, past the door, through the gate, leaving the pain behind. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived from Korea. Inside the envelope was a handwritten note, and a bank check worth 5 million naira. It read, Daniel, I don't know if you'll ever speak to me again. I don't deserve it, but I want to mend what I broke. Please use this to start anew. You always dreamed of having your own workshop. Let this be the beginning. Thank you for saving me twice. Your brother Joseph. Months later, Daniel stood before a modest building with bold letters painted across the front. Danny Auto Works. Children ran by as sunlight gleamed across his car. He brushed his hand gently against it and smiled. Not because the pain had vanished, but because he had endured it. Half a year later, dawn broke over Douglas Road, painting the town in soft golden light. Inside a humble corner shop in Amakoya, Daniel swept the dusty cement floor with careful strokes. He looked healthier now, stronger, fuller, his eyes clear and steady. A quiet smile found its way to his face more often these days. New tools stood in his workshop. An alignment machine, a tire changer, a refurbished car lift, all bought with Joseph's gift. Daniel had opened his business quietly, without a party or noise. What he wanted wasn't celebration, but peace. And in this place he could finally breathe again. One morning, a Toyota Camry rolled up outside. Daniel was bent under a bonnet when the door slammed shut. He stepped out, wiping grease from his hands, and froze. Standing there was Joseph. He wore traditional attire, his beard clean-shaven, his skin darker from travel. Good morning, Danny, Joseph said softly. Daniel gave a small nod, silent. I came to see you. Daniel folded his arms. What do you want? To see you, and to thank you again. You already did. I want to do more, brother. Daniel frowned. And what's more? Joseph hesitated, then whispered, I want to be part of your life again. Daniel's eyes lingered on him for a long moment before he replied quietly, I forgive you, Joseph, but I will not walk backwards. Joseph looked down, ashamed. Okay, I understand. Yet he didn't leave. Instead, he stayed in the workshop, helping Daniel through the day. He returned the next day too, staining his fine clothes with grease and oil. On the third day, as Daniel closed the shop, he finally pulled Joseph aside and embraced him tightly. You're my brother. You'll always be my brother. Think of our mother. Think of where we came from. We were happy even in poverty. Shouldn't we be happier now? Joseph fell to his knees sobbing. He begged for forgiveness, pouring out his regret for all the pain he had caused. And there, the two brothers reconciled. The lesson of this story is clear. Betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. More often, it comes from those we love most. Giving is not weakness, it is strength. Even if your gift is discarded, pride will always destroy what love has built. Forgiveness does not mean stepping back into pain. It means setting yourself free. And sometimes, God's reward doesn't come through those you help, but through the strength He gives you to survive without them.